It's April 28th, 2021, Wednesday, and we've got all the details on the Ethiopian Ministry of Education deal. Get ready. Let's go. My fellow members of the Cardano Army of Spies, welcome to the post-Africa Bird era. The Africa Bird has landed. We did a special edition yesterday just to kind of talk about the breaking news. I don't think anybody outside of IOHK Mergo and the Cardano Foundation and the New York Times obviously expected that news would be broken yesterday, but it was. So let's go through really quickly what went down yesterday. So the first thing, we knew there was a press embargo, a media embargo, and apparently it was because of the New York Times. So here's the New York Times article. We covered it yesterday, so we're not going to go back through it. But then there were some other events, and we got more details, and that's what we're going to cover today. So next, an IOHK blog entry written by John O'Connor. John O'Connor lives at least half the time, I think, in Addis Ababa. He's half Ethiopian, and he's the guy who was kind of spearheading the Cardano effort on the ground in Ethiopia. And he was also the guy a couple months ago who leaked to us the first news that Cardano was very close to signing a deal that would onboard 5 million people. So here's him kind of concluding that whole story arc. And he laid out a lot of details we did not have about the Africa deal in a pretty concise and small number of paragraphs here. But this is only one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is the CityA.M article. And we're going to kind of weave these two together because John O'Connor in this blog entry gives us some details and the CityA.M article gives us some others. So this system is going to create a national ID for students and teachers. The scope of this is 5 million students, 3,500 schools, and 750,000 teachers. This is an Atala Prism project. You probably already know Atala Prism is built on Cardano. One of the goals of this project is to pinpoint underachievement in the Ethiopian educational system. Another goal is to reduce fraudulent university and job applications and allow employers to verify grades with some level of certitude to increase social mobility in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is issuing all teachers and pupils right here with tablets and a dedicated internet network, giving all students instant access to their academic records, opening up higher education employment for the 80% of students who live in rural areas. I don't know if anything like this has ever even been attempted before. This is all part of the Digital Ethiopia 2025 plan that the Ethiopian Prime Minister laid out, which we covered, I think, about a week ago. Ethiopia is also looking at track and trace solutions for agriculture and digital identity for transportation and healthcare. These could be provided by Atala Prism as well. John O'Connor's blog entry and the CityA.M article also talk about the fact that IOHK is already in discussions around a digital transportation tracking system in Addis Ababa. John O'Connor, in his blog entry, mentions that IOHK is in discussions on two different multi-million user applications. So this article told us that one of those is probably this transportation ticketing system in Addis Ababa. John O'Connor's blog entry told us that there's yet another one beyond that that's also in discussion. So this is kind of a holistic system for Ethiopian education. This will allow for tracking of not just grades, but also behavior, attendance, transfers, and dropouts at the kindergarten, elementary, and secondary or high school level. So this will also be paired with a learning management system to allow for data-driven, personalized, and dynamic education. So this is a big deal. Some of these things we're talking about are more advanced than what we see in many developed countries, at least in prior decades. when I was going to school in North America, we certainly did not have anything about me that was paired with a learning management system that attempted to tailor the educational program being put in front of me to my personal strengths and weaknesses. Everybody was just taught the same thing. And if somebody missed something, too bad for them. If I was way ahead of everybody else, too bad for me. Everybody was going to get the same thing every single day. And there was not a whole lot data driven about it. Sure, there were standardized tests, maybe taken once a year, but what the hell they did with that data, I don't know. So this is like a quantum leap forward. In the past, we've talked a lot about the possibility that some of these some of these countries, some of these nation states in the developing world could leapfrog some of the legacy systems we currently have in the developed world and land in something even better than what we currently have. This could be the case for Ethiopia. This is a really big deal, and I think the next generation of Ethiopian students are going to have some huge benefits that no one has ever had in Ethiopia before. But I don't think we want to brush under the rug that some of this might sound a little scary at the outset. I mean, you must have had some reaction to the part where we said that employers would have access to your grades. I would certainly have kind of an adverse reaction if my employers had access to all my grades, right? I mean, I've probably, put my GPA into job applications in the past. I've had to deliver my transcripts to, universities, and even some job applications have required transcripts, but I've kind of had control over that. So this brings up some questions around radical transparency and the balance with privacy, right? It's like it might be a huge boon for employers and maybe even for a lot of the students if prospective employers can directly verify grades in a tamper-proof system. This is probably great for employers, and if it allows former students to get jobs more easily, good for the students too. But at the same time, there is this balance between privacy and this transparency of information. I think, and actually one of the premises of the Army of Spies project is that we are going to move toward a society of radical transparency globally, no matter what. Even if you're not in favor of it, there's probably going to be much more radical transparency of information about everything. Information systems are just getting better and better and better, and the internet changed the level of privacy we all have. There's certainly much more information available about each of us on the internet than there was when I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, it would have been hard to find information about me if you were on the other side of the world. Today, probably very easy to look up anybody's name who has any kind of a digital footprint. All kinds of social media. This has been covered ad nauseum. We don't need to get into it here, but most of us who are active on the internet have a pretty big digital footprint. And certainly if we're active on social media, there's a lot of things about us online. And advertisers have leveraged this. This is the whole business of companies like Facebook, right? But I think there's going to be even more transparency of information, and I think it's probably unavoidable. So while this may seem a little bit abrupt when you hear that grades are going to be available to potential employers, we don't know yet the details. We don't know if individual former students will have to give permission for those employers to access those grades. I'm guessing it's going to be something like that. I'm guessing we're going to go through a period where there's going to be permissioned information, much greater transparency, as long as the person the data is about gives that permission. I think that's what we're going to see with projects like these. And I think that's going to be the case for this next coming period. But in another decade, another 2 decades, we might get to a place where everybody just knows all the information is available and people don't care anymore. I think we might be going to a place like that. We'll see, but for now, this is definitely a step towards this radical transparency I'm talking about. And I think in this case, it'll be permission, like I said, but we'll see. A Along with all of this, we've also had some Army of Spies community reporting. In the Reddit comments to yesterday's Army of Spies post, Army of Spies member, Reddit user Rickle Pickle My Dickle reported that there was chatter in the World Mobile Telegram group that World Mobile will be dropping some news tomorrow. I'm hoping it's that they are partnering with IOHK or the Cardano Foundation to put up those good-looking towers in rural Ethiopia to provide internet access to help out with this whole system. So we'll find out tomorrow. Thank you to Rickle Pickle My Dickle for that information. And finally, on the non-Africa news front, we've got a new Cardano metrics platform in town. It's called Cardano Waves, and there's some really good information here. If you want to make data-driven decisions about Cardano, this might be a tool in your toolbox. We've got all kinds of information about transactions, inputs, outputs, fees, blocks, treasury transactions, reserve transactions. We've also got stake pool info. This is kind of like macro information, like total pools created, pools updated, total stake pools retired, staking information, staking addresses created, staking addresses deregistered. I love that they do both the positive and the other side, created and deregistered, stake addresses, total, ADA stake, total, rewards. Love that. You know, my favorite topic is rewards. Tokens, minting, and total asset transactions. Development, we've got Cardano GitHub, Cardano Wallet GitHub, Daedalus GitHub. This is all great. Social media, total Cardano Foundation followers, total Cardano subscribers. I have no idea how hard it is to either scrape this or somehow harvest it from an API, but it would be great to see like somehow total mentions of Cardano, maybe in Twitter or Reddit. I have no idea if that's feasible at all, but love it when these new tools pop up. They give us more insight into what's going on in our ecosystem. So CardanoWaves.com if you want all this great data on our ecosystem. And with that, I will see you tomorrow, which is the day of the Africa special. Don't forget, Africa special, April 29th, 1630 UTC. That's 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 a.m. Mountain, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Dublin, 7:30 p.m. Addis Ababa, 11:30 p.m. Bangkok, 1:30 a.m. Tokyo. And with that, I will see you there tomorrow. It's going to be fun.